Okay, good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Warm welcome to I think it's the first session in the Rebooting the TV Experience programme of events. This one particularly is looking at connected TV and preparing for the mass market. There have been a number of changes to the panel since stuff was first announced a month or two ago, so there's a slide up showing you what an eclectic group of people we have here today. We're highly privileged to have, I think, quite a robust cross-section of people from all angles that will have some impact on where this thing's going to go over the next couple of years. So these are the guys that you're going to be hearing from today. The format is that they're each going to do probably 5 to 6 minutes of a presentation, and then we're going to have a half an hour or so at the end for a slightly moderated sort of Q&A with the opportunity for anybody in the audience to open up with questions. And also I'll point out, although I will remind you at the end, that there is a special place outside after the event where there's a meet the speakers area. So anyone who wants to make particular contact with any of the speakers will be given the opportunity to do so outside. I'll make that announcement at the end. So moving on to what we're going to talk about today, a lot of hype around connected TVs. One of the themes and stuff that I want to try and get out on the next slide. These are some of the themes that we've been talking to each of the presenters about trying to address today, so that you at least go away with some insight into this area. I've asked everyone to slavishly avoid making corporate presentations. They only have 6 minutes, so really this is all about trying to get some insight into the room so that the questions that you ask at the end might be more directed to these sorts of subjects. My own background is very much from a consumer marketing roles that I've had in the past, and really so we're trying to find today, does the fact that there's a number of connected TV devices in the market really constitute the fact that this means that it's a market? So some of the issues that we hope to be getting into is, well, what is a mass market in terms of a consumer? Connected TVs typically are lacking standards across the various manufacturers. So there's a lot of issues to be involved before advertisers and brands start to move into this as a medium. And then, as you can also see here, I think some big issues that hopefully we'll talk about: the consumer education. There's a big education job to be done here. Somebody's going to have to stump up the money to do it. What sort of models might work in this connected TV space? Obviously, TV's been quite successful in being an ad-funded model for commercial broadcasters, and also equally successful in terms of pay TV models. So which model do we think might prevail in this TV environment, and how's that going to work, particularly when there's no common advertising platform across the various CE routes to market at the moment? So that will make it quite difficult to make this a market that people can engage with. Personalisation, second screen. I know there's a lot of other stuff going on in other rooms about this, but we can't not talk about it today. In the last 12 months, the evolution of the tablet and the second screen as being maybe the device that's going to control a lot of what goes on the TV, maybe more the personal screen in the TV viewing experience. How do we address that? Then obviously, how are these guys all going to start talking about differentiating their services so that they become the most popular service and win out with the consumer? A lot of potential here for consumer confusion, which is why the education role is very important. Converged content. I understand there's lots of people in the content business here. A lot of phrases going around in this area about converged content, orchestrated content. There's a whole load of stuff going on. I think it's clear that there will have to be some sort of disruption to the old model of content creation, advertising creation and production to really address some of the opportunities that are going to be coming through in this area. So these are general themes that we've tried to put in front of everyone, and hopefully they're going to address some of these over the course of the next hour or so. So without further ado, I'm going to introduce the first speaker, who not coincidentally is from a consumer electronics connected TV manufacturer, which is Richard Musch from Philips. Richard is the Senior Director of Business Development of Smart TVs in the Philips Consumer Lifestyle. Richard manages content acquisitions for Philips Smart TV, leading all global partnerships for the Smart TV platform. And previously, Richard was responsible for new digital media initiatives at RTL Netherlands and RTL Group, where he was responsible for the creation and execution of a variety of new digital startups. Richard is a graduate of both the University of Amsterdam and the INSEAD MBA programme in France. He spent the early years of his career in London at JP Morgan, investment banking, focusing on telecom and media transactions.
Philips brings you Smart TV, a complete and almost endless way to manage all content available anywhere. You can rent movies directly from the internet or stream them wirelessly from your computer. Via Smart USB recording, you can add a hard disk to your television, which allows you to schedule a recording through your Net TV electronic program guide. With Smart USB recording, you can pause a live digital broadcast program and replay it without missing anything. Enjoy photos, music and movies from any device on your TV and use the smartphone app to simply control your TV. With Philips Smart TV, you can now access advanced digital functions on your TV.
Good afternoon. Thank you for that great introduction. Thank you. Thank you for speaking here today. So what I wanted to do today in my presentation is address sort of the challenges we currently face in the connected TV. So maybe next slide. Oh. So I think one important thing for people to realize is that when TV is getting smarter, it doesn't sort of change any of the normal TV behavior. People still want to watch a soccer football match with their friends live, right? So that's very unchanged behavior. I think what is changing is the way people consume afterwards. So imagine that situation where you missed a program, you want to go and consume it through an app, a catch-up app. And I think the other additional thing is we obviously have a lot of communication with smartphones and tablets as a second screen that they really enable to help the TV make a more intuitive experience. I think those are the 2 points that Smart TV is bringing consumers. So one of the challenges has been so far really adoption of Smart TV. On the one hand has obviously been the last years we only had Smart TV, as speaking for Philips, we had Smart TV as a feature only in the high-end models, not so much in mid-end and low-end. So that's one sort of challenge that we see now being solved, because next year, 2012, 2013, almost all of the TV sets in the market produced will be carrying the Smart TV feature. The second one is obviously marketing and communication. So think, what are people told in the store? Are we seeing Smart TV as a feature back in the marketing campaigns on the TV and print and various other media campaigns? So this is a slide, sort of a bit of a compilation of campaigns. What we've seen is that at CES last year and at IFA, which are big trade shows for TV, it was all about Smart TV. So we expect that again also at CES 2012, early January. So that's one sort of first challenge. The second challenge is how to really develop and create something which is interesting and which consumers will actually be enthusiastic about for the TV. Right, so just put that on one slide for you. PC experience is really about information, maybe doing your administration, booking a trip if you're thinking about traveling to a foreign country. Communication is really your mobile phone, so maybe you do a little bit of search there, but primarily communication. And TV should be, as what it is meant to be, really about entertainment. So the question following this is, how do you really develop for connected TV? What is it not? It's not just an Internet Explorer browser in a TV, right? So you can't just translate the internet experience from a PC by putting it simply as a browser on TV. So that's something we've learned. What it is, it's building dedicated apps, really good apps with great control, like I just mentioned, so using the tablet or the iPhone or Android apps for control. And it's really just about thinking ahead, and there's a lot of innovative companies also today here in this panel that have done a great job, I think, in coming up with these really great consumer apps. It's how do you marry the internet connectivity at the back of it with a really good lean-back experience. So it's the second challenge. The third is kind of like, there's so many new players coming into this industry. Obviously, the value chain was very traditional. Now there's a lot of new players that see over the top as an opportunity. And a lot of new players are trying out, some of them really successful, and I think that sort of makes the industry also a little unpredictable. Some of these propositions will fail. They're bound to be fail. Some of them will bound to be failing just by the reason that there's a lot of new companies entering in this space. And at the same time, we need to find some sort of new neutral place, harmony within that value space, which to our understanding is really about respecting each other's business models. So to coexist with each other. And then the last challenge is really something we've addressed by introducing our Smart TV Alliance. For some of you may be aware of this. So there's a big challenge in terms of supply when you as a developer, a publisher, want to publish your content through an app on a TV. It's normally so that there's a lot of fragmentation. So you need to develop against a certain specification for the next TV, again for another specification. So this is something we've addressed at Philips together with our partners Sharp, Loewe, and LG, who recently joined the alliance, by coming and working now towards a shared SDK. So what this really means is that we want to solve that problem of fragmentation by coming up with a sort of a technical ecosystem at the back of it. So I think that's really a big step forward, I think, in terms of giving the tools to publishers, owners of content, to create one app once and then publish it on multiple platforms. I think this is sort of giving the summary of the points I mentioned. So sort of a quick recap on this. Important to have it available. Smart TV is a feature in every TV. As an industry, we have huge CE volume. The replacement cycle's gone down from sort of 7 years down to 4 or 5 years. So we expect in 2013 at least 50% of the people to have a Smart TV enabled. The UI, very important. People will engage with your brand. We need to cater for really great apps on TV. This is about the value chain, where there needs to be a new harmony in the value chain. And 4 is something we've addressed in our multi-brand alliance, which is focusing really on open web standards and creating the toolkit so you can publish against multiple platforms. So these are sort of the 4 challenges I wanted to share with you today. Thank you.
Thank you for that. As you can see, we're trying to focus on some issues rather than sort of trot through loads of slides that you've probably all seen before somewhere. So, anyway. I'd now like to introduce Michael Comish, who's the CEO of blinkbox. Michael is Canadian, born in Montreal, and is co-founder and CEO of blinkbox.com, which is the UK's most popular video-on-demand website. Since the company was founded in 2008, it has built an audience of over 2 million users per month, who watch a library of 8,000 movies and TV shows on PCs, games, consoles, tablets, and interconnected TV sets. You may have seen recently the announcement that they've gone on the Samsung connected TVs. Blinkbox was very interestingly acquired by Tesco earlier this year in April, and I'm sure Michael will be touching on the opportunities that will provide for moving to a mass market. Michael also played a central role in building the pioneering online video company Atom Films, which was co-founded in 1998. As president, he helped Atom grow revenues to over 25 million a year and successfully merged with Shockwave.com and build a global audience with more than 15 million users a month. Atom Shockwave was sold to Viacom for $200 million in 2008. Was that 8 or 6? Between 2002 and 2005, Michael held the role of Managing Director of 4 Services at Channel 4, a job which included running new media, the studio and post-production businesses for creative and corporate development. A graduate of both the University of Western Ontario and the INSEAD MBA program in France, he spent the early years of his career at Braxton Associates before becoming a partner at Mercer Management Consulting.
So what I'm going to try and do is just give you a little bit of context, which hopefully will help in our discussion as we look at the market. First up, there's a lot of talk about interconnected televisions. We see the market as really coming into fruition in 2012. This chart here looks at the percentage of new TVs shipped that are internet enabled, and you can start to see the curve. So you're looking at 2012 with about 70% of new TVs shipped having IPTV in them. This is probably the best data I can find. If you look to where the market is today for where people are accessing video on their television, it's actually in the set-top boxes. So it's the games consoles that are already hooked to the television. This is Screen Digest data, and it's looking at active users. And what you can see in the dark blue is that the market today, broad brushstrokes, about 10 million across the big 3 countries in Europe, are watching via games consoles. However, looking out 5 years, the majority of the market is going to be on internet-connected tellies. This is starting to lead to a pretty profound change in the way people are watching their video. So historically, internet video, not surprisingly, has primarily been on television. However, all the growth in internet video in terms of the marketplace is coming via the television as you look out to 2013. And what's most interesting is that for us, anyways, is that there's a much higher propensity for consumers to pay for things on the telly versus on the PC. Unfortunately, the nature of the PC has been a lot of consumers expect it for free. However, on TV, they have a much higher propensity to pay, so it really opens up the pay model. When we think about IPTV, though, we don't think about it as a single product. It's really part of a broader offer. From a consumer perspective, this is about the ability to access their programming across PC, TV, tablet, set-top box, any internet-connected device, essentially. They purchase something, or they're watching ad-supported. They want to watch it on any of those devices. And the key USP here for consumers is instant access across a range of different devices. And if you think about the shift in consumer behavior with video, you're moving from a controlled environment where really you're beholden to the schedulers. It's 9 o'clock, I want to watch this show, to immediate access where you're now in charge of what you're watching and when. What we're also finding, one of the trends has been moving from an ownership model to an access model. So before, I wanted to acquire a video library, a library of DVDs in your household. The ownership model is still here, but increasingly people are valuing ownership plus access. So you need to throw more into the offer to keep consumers buying. And as you do that, you're shifting less from a product focus to a product come service focus. So as retailers and as if you are liaising with a customer, you need to start thinking about it more as a service than just a product. Very briefly, I'll talk a little bit about blinkbox and Tesco. Blinkbox, probably most of you won't know unless you're in the UK. We've got about 2.4 million users per month, about 9,000 titles. Tesco is the third largest retailer in the world, about 100 billion euros in annual turnover. What's interesting is blinkbox is essentially Tesco's push into the digital space, and it heralds sort of a new phase of their growth. What we found interesting about Tesco is they have 17 million club card customers, which means that we have data on 17 million customers. We know exactly who've purchased DVDs last year and how many. In their stores, they get about 20 million people per week, and they're a very large CE, consumer electronics and DVD retailer. So what you're really talking about is marrying a large-scale relationship with consumers with deep digital expertise. So very quickly, for blinkbox, it's about access to your favorite titles on demand, instantaneously, across a range of different devices. We work with all the US studios, all the majors, and we're primarily a pay service. We also have ad-supported programming, so we're a freemium model. Just to set the scene for the rest of the panel, we see 2012 as being the tipping point for the market. So about a year from now, you're going to start really feeling it. The consumers are going to start feeling it from a consumer perspective. Internet video up to this stage has been primarily about early adopters watching on PC. and that's shifting to mass market watching on television. And again, the nice thing about TV is you've got a higher propensity to pay. You can build a pay business model on TV, where it's been quite difficult to build on TV. But the technology to enable this is actually incredibly complex. You have to build different services for each device. You have to encode in different digital rights management systems. You have to have a common user interface, even though you're dealing with different devices with different constraints. So I think what you're going to see is a lot of people pile into the market, but only a small number are going to emerge successfully. Unless technology really sits at the core of your expertise, a lot of companies who try and do this are going to fail. So I think you're going to find a small number of companies that control it, whether it's a company like Tesco Blinkbox in the UK, whether it's Amazon, LoveFilm, Netflix. We'll talk about Google and others. But the vast number of companies you see today, we see contracting over the future. And who those will be remains to be seen. Anyway, hopefully that's a bit of a tee up for our panel discussion. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael. Next up, I'd like to introduce Mr. Hu from KISA, which is the Korea Internet and Security Agency. He's the general manager there of the Convergence content team, where he's been in charge of the whole Korean internet. I think this body's in charge of governing all the things to do with the internet, and they're doing some really interesting stuff with interactive TV, which he's going to talk to you about now. So, Mr. Hu.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. First of all, thank you very much for your participating here. My name is Hae-Nyoung, the director of KISA, short for Korea Internet and Security Agency. I hope that my presentation to be beneficial to you all and starting point of the cooperation between your country and Korea. My presentation is divided into 4 parts. My company KISA is a state-owned company dedicated to the promotion of the internet and information protection, as well as international cooperation in the area of ICT. Interactive TV program production support plan began with the Korean government will to find appropriate broadcasting service in digital convergence era and facilitate related industry. TV was developed into a media to display moving images, combined with the internet service, are now developing into a media providing various interactive service, especially based on the excellent infrastructure such as high-speed internet network and high distribute rate of smartphone. Korea first established interactive broadcasting system that is combined with various technology such as on-screen. Korea interactive broadcasting program are largely divided into 2 stages. First, it is provide interactive function to the existing video materials so that viewers can benefit from additional information or participate in programs such as quiz or survivor. The second type includes screen sharing, where TV and smart media are jointly used, and smart collaboration, where personality and common terminal take advantage of strengths of each medium and organize content. Recently, the first stage has come into commercialization in Korea, while the second stage is still subject to test service. I would like to introduce you to our production support is excellent case among interactive broadcasting programs supported by KISA over the last 3 years. The direct development of interactive broadcasting program may be difficult to reason, such as the level of broadcasting and communication infrastructure or technology, as well as legal and institutional issues. If you want more detailed video or distribution, the website provides online promotion for your information. Also, if you have good ideas or opinions, please share them with us. Best Politics, Case 1, multi-commentary and multi-angle TV program.
September 2011. Here comes a new paradigm of sports broadcast.
This program is produced by Korea Telecom, number of IPTV provided in Korea.
Enjoy a ball game with multi-commentary service, multi-angle service, and special images for your team in special angles. A brand new world of broadcasting of baseball games now comes to reality. Smart Information Service. All of the ball games today, just with a remote control and smart devices in your hand.
Case 2, participating viewers TV program. Let you see related video clip.
Control. Not only you can watch the show, you can participate in it as well. With a remote control in your hand, it is as if you are in the actual studio. The viewers can participate and answer the questions along with participants in the studio during the live broadcast. Once you enter your personal information, you're ready to participate in the quiz show. You can check your ranking while you answer the questions during the show.
예, 자, 1번, 2번, 4번
The greatest interactive TV program that will not free your remote control from your hands. The News Concept Live Quiz Show, created by viewers.
Again, I would like to stress that this presentation was prepared based on example in Korea. Therefore, they may not be appropriate example for the infrastructure or legal institution of each country. Through the market is the beginning stage. It has great potential for development into future. If you are interested, Korea and related companies are ready to be your excellent partner. Thank you very much for your interest.
Thank you, Mr. Hu. I think the two videos there were indicative of a lot of stuff that's being talked about here, so very relevant to today's conversation. Next up, I'd like to introduce Johannes Larcher, who's the Senior Vice President of International Business at Hulu. Johannes serves on the is responsible for the leading of Hulu's expansion efforts outside the United States and have recently announced launching in Japan. Prior to joining Hulu, Johannes served in a number of internationally focused roles, including General Manager of International at Overture, where he led the international business from the initial concept definition through to market leadership in 12 countries across Europe and Asia, prior to the acquisition by Yahoo in 2003. He also served as Vice President and General Manager of International for Friendster. Johannes' background also includes a wealth of online startup and consulting experience, having served as co-founder and CEO of several companies, including Academy 123, an online education service that was acquired by Discovery Communications, and most recently MIPCOM, an online social entertainment company. Johannes is a Fulbright Scholar with an MBA from the Wharton School of University of Pennsylvania. Johannes.
Thank you, Keith. All right, good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for having me. I thought that in all the clutter that exists out there regarding platforms, standards, companies of different nature pursuing the industry as it changes through the introduction of the internet and other technology, it would be helpful maybe to step back a little bit and focus on the key constituents behind all this change and their different sets of interests as they impact the industry. So these, in our view, are consumers, advertisers, content owners, and creators. Please allow me to spend a little bit of time on each of those and what drives them in this business today. So first with consumers. Obviously, consumers have gone to very great lengths to demonstrate that they demand more convenience out of their television experience today. This is about the ability to decide when to consume content, where to consume that content, and how to consume it. Freeing themselves from the slavery of traditional linear television schedules to watch content at any time of the day or night. The ability to watch content on any device, be that the connected television set in your living room, be that your mobile device, your tablet, or indeed your personal computer. And it's also about the how of consuming content and television. Do you want the experience to be augmented or traditional? Do you want subtitles in original language or in local language? So these are some of the things consumers are demanding and increasingly are able to enjoy. It's also about respect for the consumer. Consumers demand a reasonable ad load in their television experience. And if you look at the success of the DVR, in part that is because they were forced and continue to be forced to consume a disproportionate amount of advertising in their linear television experience. That has to change, and consumers are demanding that with their feet. Lastly, consumers are becoming a very powerful marketing force, the ability to make or break a new show based on their immediate feedback, leveraging social technologies on the internet. This is a major shift, obviously, not only for consumers, but also for content producers, many of which are in this room. With regards to advertisers, TV advertising is a wonderful thing. We are huge fans of TV advertising. There's no better way for a brand to communicate their benefits to a mass audience than the sight, sound, and motion of television advertising. However, the 60-plus years of television advertising history have also been fraught with a major problem, i.e. that there is a ton of waste in television advertising where you basically have to use a show as a proxy for the audience that you're trying to reach. Well, advertisers are demanding more. They demand that in the 21st century, we leverage the power of targeting that the internet affords us, thus enabling the advertiser to deliver their message to exactly the right person and not a proxy of the audience they wish to reach. Advertisers also want a better experience for the consumer, a more engaged, interactive experience, where ad formats are starting to change and innovate so that the consumer gets drawn into the advertising, into the brand, and into the message. Ultimately, all this adds up to more effectiveness for the advertiser, which is exactly what the community is demanding. The third constituent is the community of content owners and content creators, so many of which are represented here today. Well, we think there's actually really good news ahead for that community. First of all, more and more content will get consumed. As you make it easier to consume content on all kinds of devices at all kinds of times during the day, consumption of content is going to go only in one direction, and that is up. And we've seen that not only on television, we've seen it in music, we've seen it in books as well. So more content will get consumed. Content owners have also been very vocal about the need to earn a fair return on the very, very significant investment that is required to produce the great content that we all love. And as a result, what we expect to happen is that the best content will be made available in the best windows to those distributors of content who pay the most. And increasingly, pay the most is defined not just on an absolute dollar or euro amount. It's defined on who pays the most on a per user, per month basis, on a variable basis. So for content owners, all this adds up to very good news. So you may ask, well, what about distributors? Distributors like Blinkbox or Hulu or Comcast, Time Warner Cable, and others, satellite companies, free-to-air broadcasters. Well, we live in interesting times. The internet is a great leveler and a great source of innovation. We believe that the winners will be differentiated from the losers in this business along several dimensions. First of all, rapid innovation will be required. Thinking back to the three constituents and what they need, you have to innovate your service and deliver good value for the consumer, the advertiser, and the content owner if you want to continue to be successful into the future. You have to be willing to pay out a significant portion and an increasing portion of your revenue to the content providers. And that means those distribution companies that are lucky enough to enjoy a dual revenue stream model, meaning advertising and a pay model, will ultimately be able to pay higher economic value to the content owner. Lastly, you have to be able, as a distribution company, to tolerate lower margins. Traditionally, distribution companies were privileged. You think about cable television as a geographically enabled oligopoly. Well, more and more value, more and more margin is going to shift towards the content owners, and those distributors that are willing to live with lower margins will ultimately succeed. And the last thing is near and dear to our heart. It's customer obsession. Customer obsession is not a value that comes to mind when you think of most cable companies, for example, in the world. But unless you obsess about the customer, and with customer I mean the end user, the content owner, and the advertiser, and deliver value against all of their needs at the same time, it will be very hard for you to stay competitive. So that's it. It's a good news story, especially for content owners. Thank you very much.
Okay, and finally on these formal presentations, pleased to have here today Donagh O'Malley from Google TV's Director of Content. Donagh runs the content partnerships for Google TV, leading all partnerships globally for the platform. And prior to Google, he led the content partnerships for YouTube in the UK and launched UK Shows, which in fact was the first full-length TV content on YouTube globally. Before joining Google, Donagh spent 10 years working in the content industry at UPC, Turner and Music Choice.
Hi, good afternoon, everyone. So lots of questions we've already heard in the previous presentations. I want to focus on three. What's going to make a great differentiated TV service? And how will this become mass and when? And how are we all going to make some money from it? So before getting into it, I think it's worth remarking we're still kind of at the beginning. So Michael showed some numbers about projections, some serious numbers there about how connected TV is going to grow in the coming years. But it's not just speculation. I think one thing at Google that we're very focused on is what happened in the smartphone market. And we see what happened there when web met an existing mass communication medium. And we've gone from 0 to hundreds of millions of smartphones in a very short time. And so that makes us pretty optimistic and excited about the future, about if we can replicate that transition in the TV industry. And there's another very interesting parallel with mobile for smart TVs, which is we look at the value chain for mobile. And a lot of people feel that when web meets an existing technology, value is either squeezed or concentrated in a particular couple of areas, and some people in that chain lose out. That didn't happen with mobile. So I think if you look at smartphones and what happened there, everyone in that value chain benefited. Everyone won from the advent of web-enabled smartphones. Handset manufacturers, network operators, content owners and aggregators, advertisers, consumers, they've all realized significant upside. So we like that partnership model at Google. Our version of smart TV is called Google TV. Despite what some of you may have heard, it is not about cord cutting, and it is not about trying to take people away from their TV. Actually, on the contrary, it really is mirroring that smart TV proposition, where we kind of leverage that full partnership model, and we see significant upside for everyone in the value chain. So kind of looking at those three questions that I mentioned at the beginning, differentiation. So I say your TV is about to get a lot smarter. I kind of agree with the other speakers that this is a kind of 12 to 18-month timeline. What we're focused on is a kind of seamless integration of web and content. And what that means, the kind of features that you'll see in common that a great connected TV service will have are things like telling your TV what you want to watch. I mean, it sounds simple. But the reality is, I mean, it exists with Google TV today, and it's something we're constantly iterating, that you can sit there and literally speak to your television or type in something, tell it what you want to watch, and it will instantly populate kind of queue or a menu for you and tell you wherever you can watch that content, irrespective of origin, whether it's on blinkbox or Hulu or linear broadcast or YouTube, wherever. And it will try and connect the user in the easiest way with the most relevant content. So that's a huge kind of shift in how people are used to consuming content. And of course, we also want the TV to work for you. So we want TV to give you relevant, intuitive recommendations about what you should watch. So everyone talks about social, and it's pretty obvious there should be a social integration where you can share with people what you're watching or get kind of curated playlists either from friends or experts. But really this is, as Johannes was saying, freeing people from the kind of the schedule, allowing people to determine how they're going to watch and when. And the last point, unleash the power of the web on your TV. I mean, it sounds a little trite, but it's true. And I was actually interested to see the Korean example of baseball. I think one of the reference apps that I pay a lot of attention to is MLB TV in the US. I think they've done an amazing job about allowing people effectively to watch a baseball game however they choose. They choose which team they want to watch, what commentary they want to receive. They choose whether they want to see the kind of dugout. They can split it into 4 and follow 4 games at the same time. They can watch a condensed version and tell the TV the particular bits or particular players that they're interested in and see only that version of the game. Amazing. And so that's what we really think is the differentiator here. Great content being liberated by technology. Second question, mass. As I mentioned, we do think it's a kind of 12 to 18-month timeline. I think, again, here are some things that great connected TV services will have in common. And whoever can unify as much of these as possible on one device will probably become a mass winner in this market. So it has to be simple. Remember the old days where you had to scrabble around with wires or change inputs or do a bunch of stuff to get the internet on TV, and it was just horrible. No one's going to do it. The browser has to be built right in, and it has to be relevant and comprehensive. If I'm asking my smart TV to do something, it better do it. You know, it better give me good, relevant, contextual results. And those results should be actionable. Don't send me to a link that, you know, is a dead end. It requires good, comprehensive content partnerships, a wide breadth of content. So all of that content can be consumed in one place. Innovation is kind of obvious. I mean, our take on innovation is really, again, kind of making it simple. So Google TV runs off Android, same as phones and tablets. Our take on it is allow content owners, developers to develop once for 3 screens and you're done. You don't have to do separate iterations for tablet and then reconfigure everything for TV and then figure out what you're going to do with the phone. Do it all off Android. You hit all 3 devices same way. And real interactivity, I mean real as opposed to red button interactivity. So remember when you press the red button and then you'd wait and then a menu would come and then you'd wait some more and so on. I mean, it was a good idea, but the execution was poor. I think what web allows people to do is bring that interactivity genuinely and right onto the screen to deliver really interesting contextual and complementary content. And less prosaically, price will be a determining factor, but we see already chipset prices reducing a lot. Final question, making some money. So I think in common with a couple of the other speakers have said, people now need to start thinking of TV as a commerce platform. Your living room device is now a commerce platform. So I'm at home watching a Harry Potter movie. My TV knows that and allows me to buy all 7 movies in the series or rent them or buy a digital subscription to Pottermore or books or soundtrack or whatever. All right there on the TV impulse. Easy. And of course, looking out a bit further ahead, addressable ads. I guess that's the kind of holy grail for most of us here. So a smart TV, the kind of true value add of smart TV, maybe it will take another couple of years to get there, but ultimately I guess what we're all focused on is me watching X Factor at home. My TV will know I'm a 39-year-old Irishman who likes dogs and my neighbor is a 6-year-old Puerto Rican who likes cats. And we'll see very, very different ads in our broadcast stream at incredibly higher CPMs than traditional broadcast. So there are 3 of the kind of key themes that we're particularly interested in at Google TV, and I hope we talk about it more now in the panel. Thanks.
Right, we're going to try and explore some of the points that I put up on the earlier charts about, now you heard these presentations, about what we're dealing with here. Very conscious that there's been a new industry created around this whole connected TV, over-the-top marketing. There's summits and seminars everywhere. Very few places have actually deployed anything, so it's very interesting to see what Korea's done in that it seems to have actually implemented some of this stuff, and it's not all hype. So I'm going to prompt a few questions to the panel, see if we can get a bit of the discussion going, and then obviously towards the end we'll open it up if anybody's got particular angles they want to explore here. My big issue with this is that there's lots of connected TVs now being sold, lots of connected TV devices. For instance, some of the early ones that were sold a couple of years ago, I'm told, are now no longer maybe supported by the manufacturers today. So it's things like this, the fact that there's no common standards across the various CE manufacturers with their TV sets, that makes it difficult for content owners to apply a common distribution plan without having to rewrite stuff. So I'm going to try and dig in a little bit to what's it actually going to take to convert these millions of devices that are out there now connected and called connected TVs. What's it actually going to take to convert that to a market, a mass market that we would recognise as a mass market in terms of advertisers being able to buy and sell it, and content owners being able to engage with it without having to make multiple formats. So educating the consumer is very expensive, as we know. The BBC have done a great job educating the world around catch-up TV, or educating the UK around catch-up TV. Who's going to take the lead role in this, do we think, globally, I guess, in terms of educating the consumer to get involved with connected TV? How many of these connected TVs are actually being connected? Do we actually believe the numbers that the various manufacturers are putting out about the numbers that are being connected? So maybe a bit unfairly, I'll ask Richard first. How do you see this sorting itself out, and such that we'll be in a position that we could call this a truly connected TV market, for getting everybody engaged with it?
Okay. Yeah, so I think I'm fairly positive on this. I think we're very aligned in terms of stakeholders in the industry on driving connection. I think from a manufacturer point of view, obviously we see smart TV as a richer product than just a regular TV. I think Donagh was also speaking to that. Obviously, it's a TV that has more capabilities. If you speak to content owners or broadcasters, I mean, they obviously see the benefits as well. That's at least what I'm learning in discussions that I have with them. So there's, I think, a lot of interest in this development and the opportunities that it's bringing. Other over-the-top providers, they sometimes have a cross-device strategy, and TV is an intrinsic part of that strategy. So I think in terms of educating and us trying to get to the same goal, I think there is already that alignment. So I'm very positive on this. I think practically it's now just getting the simple message to consumers that they do have to connect. So Wi-Fi-enabled TVs obviously make things much easier. But just really educating people at the point of sale that they should connect to TV. So it's kind of a step process. I think that the content needs to be there, it needs to be interesting. I mean, the experience needs to be really helping you that you want to go back after you've connected it. The installation process needs to be really simple. Some of the other speakers were speaking to that as well. So obviously some things we still have to improve on. And I think in terms of overall marketing next year, we'll see, I think, a lot of education coming back in the above-the-line campaigns and also in print campaigns. So really telling people about the benefits of smart TV, giving them incentives like maybe a free movie or other incentives. So, I mean, I think from our perspective, Philips is very positive on this, and we're always, I guess that's almost every day, exploring ideas with the partners on this. So,
okay. Is anybody prepared to put some sense around how much they might be investing against the consumer in terms of straight advertising or putting the customer support in that's going to be needed in this new environment to manage the consumer in the way that they expect with digital TV. I mean, digital TV is 100% reliable. It's a given that it's going to work. This can't really be a mass market until connected TV can do the same. So does anybody fancy answering some of that? Michael?
So off the top of my head, I can't come up with a what's the marketing and customer service number. But you're talking about millions for both across Blinkbox, Tesco. I mean, if I take one step up and say, why is this important? What we're talking about is an interactive experience, right? So the value to consumer is, I can program what I want when I want to watch it, or I can do a whole bunch of new things. Well, in order to get the value, you've got to have the service working in your home. And right now, not that many people are actually activating the TVs, right? That's an issue. So how do you get them to activate? Well, partially, services like Blinkbox and Tesco have to educate the audience, look, you want every Hollywood blockbuster the day you can get it in DVD, you don't have to go to your video store. You can get it at Blinkbox. Google will have a whole series of things, and the television manufacturers have a series of things. And all of us next year, I think, will be spending more money trumpeting that as a key USP for consumers. And that starts to open up the market. Up to now, there hasn't been a critical mass of devices where consumers could get it, or content that's coming. And as a part of that offer, yep, you have to have a customer experience where there's support and there's all those things. And I think you'll find the major retailers, whether it's Hulu, call them a retailer, or Blinkbox or others, that'll be in place. So I don't think the customer service is the issue. The issue is right now, most customers really aren't that aware of all the benefits yet. That's still to come, and it's our responsibility to turn up the volume on that.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would on the stock record making analogies to smartphones, but what was the consumer decision to go from their old cell phone to a smartphone? They still do the same thing. You can still make phone calls and send texts, but for whatever reason, you elected to upgrade and spend a lot more money on something that, at its core, does the same thing. And it's the same with TV. You're still going to watch TV, so why bother? Why spend that money to upgrade to a smart TV? So what we really need to do is demonstrate to consumers the real killer kind of core functions that prompt them to say, I've got to have that, and go down to Best Buy or wherever and shell out the money for the set. With phones, it was obviously mobile stuff was turn-by-turn navigation or maps in your pocket, that kind of thing, and now everyone thinks of their phone as a boarding pass or as a music player or a media center, a ton of other stuff, as well as its core function of making and receiving telephone calls. And we're just at the beginning of that with Smart TV, but ultimately, I think once those kind of key content features, the perfect union of technology and content come out that really inspire consumers and get them excited, I think that will be the tipping point. The education stuff and the customer service stuff about telling people how stuff works, I think it's very important both from OEM level and retailer level, actually at the point of purchase. And we spend a lot of time partnering both with our launch OEMs, significant multi-million-dollar campaigns around the benefits of Google TV, but also with retailers, in-store, point-of-sale, merchandise, and so on. And they're our experts. They are the ones who tell consumers on our behalf about the benefits of Google TV.
I think maybe adding to that point, I think ultimately it's really about enriching the TV experience. So if you throw in features like social and recommendation, in the end, what we expect is that people will actually get more value sort of for their time. They spend time in front of the TV. If you get more capabilities, the TV gets smarter, you actually will hope that people actually appreciate the time in front of the TV more. So I think that's an important point, and obviously some of that is still, I guess, a promise that we have to deliver on. But I think some of the testing we've done is that consumers really like it to get the social element in, as well as a recommendation based on what they were seeing before. Curation, maybe a bit of a buzzword, but it's obviously a little about discovering that content that you didn't know was out there, and that's what Smart TV can help with.
Can I maybe just ask Johannes a question about business models in this area, coming from an online environment, looking at connected TV. I think Michael alluded to it in his presentation about TV viewing does accept a pay model in part. Which models do you see working in a connected TV environment, or will we actually recognise a connected TV market when we can redeem our Tesco loyalty points in buying a blinkbox film or something? Is there some other reward model that's going to come through here that's going to challenge these other two?
Sure, it could be a possibility. You look at what Amazon is doing with their premium video streaming service. It's basically bundled in with Amazon Prime. So how you pay for the service as a consumer through either a secondary product purchase or through loyalty points or through cash is not the relevant question in my mind. The business model will need to work for all constituents in the business. It has to work for the consumer, it has to work for the content owner that produces the goods, it has to work for the distributor, and it has to work for the OEM who ultimately manufactures the device that is used to deliver the service. So in our opinion, the greatest business model ever invented is the one of pay television, where you have a dual revenue stream business. You have the consumer paying a modest amount of money for enjoying a great amount of content and service and utility through that service. And on top of that, you have the revenue from advertisers trying to reach that consumer and willing to pay money for that access. So in our mind, the model that will optimize revenue over time is a subscription model that is combined with advertising. Doing that, you will be able to satisfy the needs of advertisers, OEMs, end users, and indeed the content owners all at the same time.
Okay. Just before I open it up, I wanted to ask Mr. Hu a question. Clearly, you've had a go there with a couple of ideas. Could you give us some idea of the kind of numbers, the audience participation in the multi-angle and the play-along game? What sort of response did you get from viewers?
We had 600,000 participants for play-along games and 3 million viewer for multi-angle service.
3 million?
3 million, yeah.
600,000 and 3 million. Any idea what percentage of an audience maybe that is? It's the big numbers, but any idea of a percentage of an audience? Is that 5% of the audience?
5%.
5%?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, is there any questions from the floor?
I heard about 2 weeks ago with regard to Google's TV environment and its streaming options, and that they were going to have a 16-channel lineup, which was obviously going to give advertisers more bang for their buck. Is there more to play out to this scenario, so to speak?
Sorry, I didn't quite catch it, that there's a 16-channel lineup.
16 channels, that's what I heard.
I'm not familiar with that story, sorry. So I think, what
I heard about it at a finance symposium.
Okay. So what I can tell you about what's coming up with Google TV is version 2 is about to launch probably within the next 3 or 4 weeks. And so version 1 was very search-oriented, and the kind of content proposition consisted of 8 pre-installed apps. With version 2, you'll see us moving more to a kind of browse environment, but also Android Market coming onto the platform. And so you'll go overnight from 8 to more than 1,000 apps. Probably around 250 of which are TV optimized and growing. So from a content owner and advertiser perspective, that's pretty interesting. The kind of content proposition for Google TV is increasing 1,000-fold overnight almost.
Thank you.
Any more?
Yes. How important are interactive entertainment experiences, whether video games or interactive second screen applications, to your strategies?
Sorry, what was that? I didn't quite get the...
How important are interactive entertainment experiences, whether video games or interactive second screen applications, to each strategy, each of your strategies?
Okay.
I mean,
second screen, yeah.
Yeah, I can answer. I mean, from our perspective, vary. Lots of statistics about how many people use internet and TV at the same time, and some people have suggested that's because there hasn't been a good integration of web and TV. I personally don't agree with that. I think people use both at the same time because they enjoy doing that. And I don't think if you do make a great smart TV product, people are just going to stop using second screens. So already on Google TV, we have a bunch of content applications that leverage the second screen, games being a great example. So each player kind of uses a tablet or phone as an input device, and the television becomes the kind of player board. But I think, more interestingly, even from our perspective, Content ID, which is the tool that kind of powers YouTube and recognizes automatically whatever a user is consuming, you can see a scenario in which that could be integrated with Google TV. So you could be watching a particular show, and on a second screen you would get a bunch of either complementary information or suggestions about what else you could watch featuring the same actor or other good shows from that genre. So I would say it's a critical component of our strategy.
So I guess adding to that, what we've learned is that that you have to be very modest and very moderate with overlays on the big screen. So people tend to just really want to focus on whatever's on the TV screen and not be distracted too much. And obviously on a second screen, you can make that experience optional. So people can actually open the app and then get more information on, let's say you're watching a live soccer match, you want to see the content from another angle or some information, background information. That's ideal for sort of a second screen application. So obviously both, I think, is something that people have to get experience on. But I think what we've really learned is be moderate on the big screen. Just people really want to enjoy that. Also, mostly it's sort of a group experience. If it's maybe a family watching a TV, so a second screen, I think, can really tailor for a unique experience coupled to sharing the TV screen.
Yeah, I think it's a good question, because in the last 12 months, the two things do seem to become joined at the hip. But I do know there are other sessions, I think tomorrow, that are looking much more about second screen and real-time engagement. So we've tried to deal with the main screen today. There is a view out there for the mass TV viewing audience. The TV itself is still the killer app. So we've tried to deal with that today, and not so much on the second screen. If there's one more question, we'll take it. If not, there's a chap over there.
Hi, my name is Lorenzo. I'm a format developer. Somebody of you mentioned that connected TV may help viewers choose in a better way what they watch on TV. So maybe something like on Amazon, when I want to buy a book, I can read reviews, or I can see what other readers liked or not liked, and so on. Who do you think is working better in this direction in the big connected TV ecosystem at the moment? Thanks.
Maybe I'll take a first step at that. I think it's tough to really say that any of us is really, let's say, advancing on this more than the others. I think we're all venturing into more social recommended experience. I think what you're saying is, do you want to see reviews on TV shows? Do you want a very active experience before you decide on what to watch? Or do you want it to be more of a passive lean-back experience where maybe you get presented with a playlist, or maybe you reject or you accept certain assets being presented to you? I think there's a lot of experimentation around that. I think there's not currently, I think from the manufacturing side of things, I think that's ongoing. I think, for instance, Netflix, I think, does a great job in that as well. Obviously, profiling you and then coming up with new suggestions. So I'd say there's a lot of companies experimenting with this, but I don't think there's yet very clear winners.
I'd be even more controversial and say I don't think anyone's doing it particularly well at this stage. I think the challenge right now is to enable your services on all these devices which have completely different platforms. So all your technology resources building a different service on this TV or that set-top box or that tablet. The services you're describing will come, but I don't think anyone's doing it particularly well today.
Okay, well, we'll call it a day. I'd like you to... was there one more there? Go on, one more then.
Just a very quick one. I'd like to know, how do you determine the kind of content you show on your platforms? Because I'm a content developer in Africa, and I'm really trying hard to distribute my content across the world. I understand that there are Africans living in the diaspora. I understand the kind of content they need, but it's difficult for me to get a platform to sell to. So I need to know, how do you determine the kind of content you sell, especially on the smartphones, on Google, Netflix, and all the other platforms? how do you make this decision on the kind of content, and how can I have access to the information so I can know who to sell to, pretty much?
Wow.
I'd say just come talk to me afterwards and give me your business card.
I think probably all of us prioritize on where we think we can make the most money. So, you know, from our perspective, we're aggregating the front end of the long tail. The economics of this in terms of, you know, I've just talked about the complexities of technology of building out on multiple services. But for every file that we have, every movie we have 24 different versions of that to service the different platforms. So, you know, our head of content will look at what's the demand, what's the propensity for people to pay, because your margins in pay are much higher than they are in advertising. And if we think we can make money off it, then we'll bring it on board because there's a whole bunch of fixed costs. At this point, for your programming, which is probably slightly more niche, I think the net will be an interesting, internet video will be interesting for you, but you're probably a couple years away before the economics are such that your content will be more in demand.
And from the Google perspective, it's pretty straightforward to create an Android app. It's free. It's all published on the web, actually. We make the software development kit available for free. So any content that you own the rights to, it's an open market. Come on board.
Maybe just adding to my comment. So we've actually just recently launched a partner portal. So that's also to cater for requests like this, where you actually can find your way to the partner portal and find all the information. There's an SDK you can download, and all the terms and conditions are over there. So I think that's also our approach to make things easier for new owners to come onto the platform. Yeah.
Okay, I'd like to thank the panel. Maybe we could put hands together for them. Thank you.